Maya Chen was 7 years old, and she knew what loneliness felt like. It felt like eating lunch alone every single day while her parents worked in the fields far away from the house. It felt like watching the school bus drive past their farm because homeschool meant no classmates and no friends. It felt like talking to the chickens because they were the only ones who had time to listen on. This particular Tuesday in late September, the sun was burning hot and the sky was so blue it almost hurt to look at it. Maya sat under the old oak tree at the edge of their property with her lunchbox open on her lap. Inside was the same thing as always, a peanut butter sandwich cut into triangles the way she liked it, an apple that was a little bit softer, juice box that was warm because she had forgotten to put it in the cooler. She took a bite of her sandwich and watched a grasshopper jump through the dry yellow grass. Everything was dry these days. Father said the drought was killing them slowly. Her mother said they might have to sell the farm if rain did not come soon. Maya did not fully understand what that meant, but she knew it was bad because her mother cried sometimes when she thought Maya was asleep. The wheat fields stretched out forever in every direction, looking sick and brown instead of gold and healthy. Maya had lived on this farm her whole life, and she had never seen it look so sad. She was about to take another bite of her sandwich when she heard a sound. It was a strange sound, like nothing she had ever heard before. It was somewhere between a cat crying and a bird singing and something else that she could not name. Maya stopped chewing and listened. The sound came again from somewhere in the tall grass near the fence. She put her sandwich down and stood up slowly. Her mother always told her to be careful of wild animals. There were coyotes out here and sometimes snakes hiding in the grass, but this sound did not seem dangerous. It seemed sad. Maya walked toward the fence with careful steps, watching where she put her feet. The grass was up to her waist in some places, and she had to push it aside with her hands. Then she saw it. At first her brain told her it was a cat. It had fur and 4 legs and a tail and pointed ears, just like a cat. But then she looked closer and her brain got confused. The cat had 6 legs, not 4. Its fur was not a normal color, but instead it shifted and changed like the rainbow colors you see when oil mixes with water in a puddle. Its eyes were too big and too smart, and they were looking right at her. The creature was lying on its side, breathing in quick, shallow breaths. It looked sick. It looked scared. Looked like it was waiting for something terrible to happen. Maya should have been afraid. Any normal person would have run away screaming for their parents. But Maya was not thinking about what was normal. She was thinking about how the creature looked exactly the way she felt on her worst days, alone and scared and hoping someone would be kind. Maya crouched down slowly so she would not frighten it. The creature made that strange sound again and tried to move away, but it was too weak. Its 6 legs scrambled against the dirt, but it could barely lift its head. "Hey there," Maya said in her softest voice. "I am not going to hurt you." The creature stopped struggling and watched her with those impossible eyes. Maya could see now that it was very thin. She could see its ribs through its shimmering fur. It was starving. Maya thought about her sandwich sitting back under the oak trees, thought about how her mother always said, "You should share what you have with those who need it more." She thought about all the times she wished someone would just be nice to her for no reason at all. Maya stood up and walked back to the tree. The creature watched her go and made a small sad sound, like it thought she was leaving forever. But Maya was not leaving. She picked up her sandwich and walked back to the strange cat thing in the grass. She crouched down again and broke the sandwich in half. "Here," she said, holding out one of the triangles. "You look hungry." The creature stared at her for a long moment. It seemed confused, like this was not what it had expected at all. Its strange eyes blinked once, twice, 3 times. Then very slowly it reached out with one of its front paws. Paw had too many fingers, and they bent in ways that cat paws should not bend. It took the sandwich triangle gently from Maya's hand. Maya watched in amazement as the creature ate it carefully and slowly, like it was not sure if this was a trick When it finished, it looked at Maya again, and something in its expression changed. Fear was still there, but now there was something else too, something like wonder, something like hope. "My name is Maya," the little girl said. "What is your name?" The creature made a sound that was definitely not any word Maya had ever heard. It was musical and strange and beautiful. "I cannot say that," Maya admitted. "Can I call you Shimmer?" Instead, the creature tilted its head like it was thinking about this. Then it made a small sound that almost seemed like agreement. Maya smiled for the first time in weeks. "Okay, Shimmer," she said. "I have to go back to the house soon, or my mom will worry, but I will come back tomorrow with more food." She reached out slowly and very gently touched the top of Shimmer's head. The fur was soft and warm, and it seemed to glow brighter where her fingers touched it. Shimmer closed its eyes and leaned into her hand just a little bit, like it had forgotten what kindness felt like it had been waiting for this moment for a very long time. "I promise," Maya said. "I will come back." She stood up and walked toward the farmhouse, looking back 3 times to make sure Shimmer was still there. Each time the creature was watching her with those amazing eyes. When Maya got to the back door, she stopped and made a decision. She would not tell her parents about Shimmer, not until she understood what Shimmer was and where Shimmer came from. For the first time in months, Maya had a secret. For the first time in months, Maya had something that felt like a friend. She went inside and did her homework and ate her dinner and helped her mother wash the dishes, and the whole time she was thinking about tomorrow, about the impossible creature in the grass, about the way it had looked at her when she shared her lunch, like she had given it something more important than food, like she had given it hope. That night Maya lay in bed and stared at the ceiling and smiled. She did not know it yet, but she had just changed the future of every human being on Earth, all because she decided to share her peanut butter sandwich with a stranger. The creature that Maya called Shimmer had a real name in the language of its people. It was called Kethvarin, which meant something close to one who walks between stars. Kethvarin was not a cat, and not an animal, and not anything that humans had. A word for Kethvarin was a scout, a scientist and explorer from a civilization called the Etherian Collective that had been traveling through the universe for longer than humans had existed as a species. The collective had discovered Earth a very long time ago. They had watched humans grow from small tribes to great nations. They had seen humans invent fire and wheels and writing and computers. They had seen humans create beautiful art and music and stories. But they had also seen humans create weapons and wars and suffering. The collective was not sure what to think about humanity. Some of its leaders said humans were dangerous and should be left alone forever. Some said humans were interesting and might one day be ready to join the galactic community. For centuries, the collective had simply watched and waited and taken notes. Kethvarin was one of the watchers. 3 weeks ago, Kethvarin had been sent to Earth on a simple observation mission, fly close enough to scan human communication signals, record data about their technological progress, stay hidden, and do not make contact under any circumstances. It should have been easy. Kethvarin had done missions like this dozens of times on dozens of worlds, but something went wrong. Something found Kethvarin in the darkness between stars, something hungry and ancient and terrible. The humans had no name for the Vorath, because humans did not know the Vorath existed, but the Vorath knew about humans. The humans did not know the Vorath existed, but the Vorath knew about humans. This had no name for the Vorath existed, but the Vorath Mismos Ajolis. Vorath knew about every species with enough life energy to be worth consuming. The Vorath were harvesters. They moved from world to world like locusts, eating everything alive and leaving nothing but empty rock behind. They had destroyed thousands of civilizations across the galaxy, and now one of them had followed Kethvarin to Earth. The chase through space had been terrifying the Varine's ship was fast, but the Vorath was faster. The only option was to dive toward the nearest planet and hope to hide in its atmosphere. Earth was the nearest planet. Kethvarin's ship had crashed 3 days ago in a field far from Maya's farm. The crash had destroyed almost everything, including the emergency beacon that could call for help. Kethvarin had wandered for 3 days trying to find shelter and food, but Earth's atmosphere was not quite right for Etherean lungs. Every breath burned a little. Our Kethvarin grew weaker by the time Kethvarin collapsed in the grass near Maya's oak tree. Death seemed certain, and worse than death was the knowledge of what was coming. The Vorath would arrive soon. It had tracked Kethvarin to this planet, and now it would not leave until it had consumed everything. Earth was doomed, and it was all Kethvarin's fault. When the small human appeared, Kethvarin expected the worst. Humans were unpredictable creatures. Some of them were kind and curious. Others were cruel and afraid of anything different. Kethvarin had studied enough human history to know that first contact often ended badly. The humans might capture Kethvarin and put Kethvarin in a cage. They might cut Kethvarin open to see how an alien body worked. They might panic and attack out of fear. Kethvarin was too weak to run and too tired to fight. All Kethvarin could do was wait and see what this small human would do. The human child crouched down and spoke in soft, gentle sounds. Kethvarin did not understand the words, but understood the tone. It was the same tone Etherean parents used when comforting frightened children. Then the impossible happened. The child left and came back with food. The child broke the food in half and offered a piece like it was the most natural thing in the world. No demands, no fear, no hesitation, just simple kindness from a stranger. Kethvarin had traveled to hundreds of worlds and met thousands of different species. Very few of them would share their food with an unknown creature. Very few of them would show compassion to something strange and different and possibly dangerous. But this small human child with dirt on her knees and peanut butter on her fingers had done exactly that. Kethvarin ate the strange food slowly. It tasted odd and the texture was unfamiliar, but it was the most wonderful meal Kethvarin had ever eaten because it came with something more valuable. The nutrients. It came with hope. When the child touched Kethvarin's head with those small gentle fingers, something shifted in Kethvarin's hearts. Yes, hearts plural, because Ethereans had 3 of them. All 3 hearts felt something they had not felt since the crash. A reason to keep trying, a reason to keep living after the child left. Kethvarin lay in the grass and thought about what had just happened. The collective had spent centuries debating whether humans were worthy of contact. They had analyzed data and written reports and argued in council chambers, but none of their analysis had predicted this: a 7-year-old girl sharing her lunch with a dying alien. Perhaps the collective had been measuring the wrong things all along. Perhaps the true measure of a species was not their weapons or their technology or their governments. Perhaps it was how they treated the weak and the strange and the hungry. Kethvarin made a decision. If there was any way to survive this, then Kethvarin would find it, not just for personal survival, but for this planet and its people. For the child who had shown kindness without knowing what kindness could cost or what kindness could earn. The girl had said her name was Maya. Maya had said she would come back tomorrow. Kethvarin would be waiting, and somehow, someway, Kethvarin would find a way to repay the gift that Maya had given, even if it meant standing against the darkness that was coming, even if it meant sacrificing everything, because that is what you do when someone saves your life with half a peanut butter sandwich. You find a way to save them back. The stars wheeled overhead as night fell on the Kansas farmland. Somewhere out in the void, the Vorath was getting closer. It could smell the life energy of 8 billion humans. It was hungry, and it was coming. But for the first time since the crash, Kethvarin felt something other than despair. Kethvarin felt determined. The small human had given more than food. She had given a reason to fight. Maya woke up to the sound of her mother screaming. For one terrible moment, she thought something bad had happened. She jumped out of bed and ran down the stairs with her heart pounding in her chest. But when she reached the kitchen, she saw that her mother was not screaming from fear. She was screaming from joy. Tears were streaming down her mother's face as she stood at the window looking out at the fields. "David," her mother called out. "David, come here right now. You have to see this." Maya's father came running in from the barn. He was covered in dirt, and his clothes were worn, and he looked tired the way he always looked tired these days. But when he reached the window, his whole face changed. He grabbed the window frame like he needed something to hold on to. "That is not possible," he whispered. Maya squeezed between her parents to see what they were looking at. The wheat fields stretched out in front of the house, the same as always. But they were not the same at all. Yesterday, the wheat had been brown and dying and bent over like it had given up hope. Today, the wheat stood tall and straight and golden like something from a painting. Every single stalk was perfect. Every single head was full and heavy with grain. It looked like the best harvest anyone had ever seen. Maya's father ran outside without even putting on his boots. Maya and her mother followed him. They walked through the fields, touching the wheat like they could not believe it was real. "This is not possible," her father kept saying over and over. "This is not possible." But it was possible because it was happening right in front of their eyes. The irrigation system that had been broken for 3 months was running clear, cool water through every channel. The soil that had been dry and cracked was now dark and rich and moist. Even the old apple trees by the house were covered in blossoms, even though it was the wrong season for blossoms. Maya thought about Shimmer. She thought about the strange creature she had found yesterday. She thought about the sandwich she had shared. Her parents spent all morning walking around the farm, finding one impossible thing after another. The rusty tractor started on the first try. The fence that needed repairs was suddenly fixed. The well that had been running low was now full of sweet, clean water. Around lunchtime, Maya's mother sat down at the kitchen table and put her head in her hands. "I do not understand," she said quietly. "I do not understand any of this." Maya's father sat down next to her and put his arm around her shoulders. "Does it matter?" he asked. "We've been praying for a miracle, and maybe we got one." Maya noticed something else too. Her father was standing up straight without wincing. He was not rubbing his lower back the way he always did. His face was not tight with pain. "Dad," Maya said carefully, "does your back feel okay?" Her father looked surprised at the question. Then he stretched and twisted and bent over to touch his toes. "It feels amazing," he said with wonder in his voice. "I feel better than I have felt in years." Maya's mother started crying again. Happy tears this time, tears of relief and gratitude and joy. Maya slipped out the back door while her parents were hugging. She ran across the field toward the keeled old oak tree as fast as her legs could carry her. Shimmer was waiting there looking much stronger than yesterday. The alien creature stood up when Maya approached, and its fur rippled with colors like a sunset made of rainbows. "You did this," Maya said. "You fixed everything." Shimmer made that musical sound again, and Maya somehow understood what it meant. "Yes, I did a gift for a gift." Maya knelt down in the grass, and Shimmer walked closer until they were face to face. "Thank you," Maya whispered. "Thank you so much." Shimmer tilted its head and made another sound. This one was different. It was lower and sadder, and it made Maya feel cold inside. "What is wrong?" she asked. Shimmer turned and looked up at the sky. Maya looked up too, but she only saw blue sky and white clouds and nothing scary at all. But Shimmer seemed to see something else, something that made all its colors dim, something that made its 6 legs tremble. Shimmer looked back at Maya and made a series of sounds Maya did not understand the words, but she understood the feeling behind them. Something bad was coming, something very, very bad, and it was coming soon. "Can you show me?" Maya asked. Shimmer hesitated for a moment. Then it reached out with one of its strange paws and touched Maya's Forehead. Maya's mind exploded with images. She saw the stars and the blackness between them. She saw Shimmer's ship flying through space, fast and sleek and beautiful. She saw something chasing the ship, something dark and huge and wrong, something that looked like it was made of shadows and hunger. She saw planets that had been green and alive turned into gray, dead rocks. She saw civilizations wiped away like drawings erased from a board. She saw the thing getting closer and closer to Earth. She saw what would happen if it arrived: fire and darkness and silence. Every person gone, every animal gone, every plant gone, nothing left but empty stones spinning in the cold. Maya pulled back from Shimmer's touch with tears in her eyes. "How do we stop it?" she demanded. "There has to be a way." Shimmer made a sound of hopelessness. The beacon that could call for help was destroyed. The collective did not know. Earth was in danger. By the time they found out, it would be too late. "Then we build a new beacon," Maya said firmly. Shimmer made a sound of disbelief. It was impossible. The technology required did not exist on this planet. Humans were centuries away from understanding quantum communication. Maya stood up and crossed her arms, the way she did when she was being stubborn about something. "My dad always says impossible just means nobody has tried hard enough yet." Shimmer stared at her with those huge, intelligent eyes. "I am not going to let everyone die," Maya said. "I am not going to let my mom and dad die, and I am not going to let you die, and I am not going to give up." She held out her hand to Shimmer. "You know how to build a beacon," she said, "and I have hands and tools, and I can get whatever you need." Shimmer looked at her small hand for a long moment. Then slowly, carefully, the alien reached out with one of its paws and took her hand. Partnership formed in that momenta. 7-year-old farm girl and a dying alien scientist against an ancient horror that had destroyed thousands of worlds. It was ridiculous. It was impossible. It was the only chance Earth had. They started that afternoon. Maya told her parents she was going to play by the creek and she would be back before dinner. It was the first lie she had ever told them, and it felt wrong in her mouth, like a bad taste that would not go away. But she did not have a choice. How could she explain that she needed to help an alien build an impossible machine to save the world from a space monster? They would think she was making up stories, or worse, they would think she was sick. So she lied, and she hated lying, but she did it anyway. Maya raided her father's tool shed first. She grabbed everything that looked useful and put it in an old wagon with squeaky wheels, pliers, and wire cutters and screwdrivers of every size, rolls of copper wire and electrical tape, an old car battery that her father had been meaning to take to the dump, a rusty toolbox full of nuts and bolts and strange metal pieces. She dragged the wagon across the field to where Shimmer was waiting. The alien looked at the pile of human tools and made a sound that might have been amusement. Then Shimmer got to work. Watching Shimmer work was like watching magic happen. The alien's 6 paws moved in complicated patterns, taking things apart and putting them together in new ways. Copper wire became something that looked like a tiny golden spider web. Metal screws arranged themselves into spiraling patterns that hurt Maya's eyes. If she looked too long, Shimmer would point at something, and Maya would hand it over. Shimmer would make a sound, and Maya would figure out what it meant. They developed their own language without words, a language of gestures and sounds and shared purpose. By the time the sun started setting, they had built something that looked like a bird's nest made of wire and circuit boards. "Is it working?" Maya asked. Shimmer made a disappointed sound and shook its head. "Not enough power, not the right components. Human technology was primitive, but creative. With the right pieces it might be possible, but they needed more." "What else?" Maya asked. "What else do you need?" Shimmer pointed at the farmhouse. More specifically, Shimmer pointed at Maya's bedroom window. Maya thought about what was in her room, her clothes and her books and her stuffed animals. None of that seemed useful then. She remembered her iPad. It was broken because she had dropped it last month. The screen was cracked and it would not turn on anymore. Her parents had said they could not afford to fix it. Shimmer made an excited sound when Maya brought the iPad back. The alien took the broken device apart in seconds. Inside were components that made Shimmer's colors brighten with hope, processors and circuits, and a battery that still held a charge. Good, but not enough. They needed to keep working for 2 days. Maya lived a double life. During the day, she did her schoolwork and helped her mother with chores and pretended everything was normal. At night, she snuck out of her window and climbed down the old trellis and ran to the oak tree where Shimmer waited. They worked in the moonlight and the starlight. Maya's fingers got cuts from the wire and blisters from the tools. Her eyes grew heavy from lack of sleep. She fell asleep during her math lesson, and her mother felt her forehead for fever. But Maya did not stop. She could not stop in her mind. She kept seeing those images. Shimmer had shown her dead planets spinning in the void, cities turned to ash, everything she loved erased forever. How could she sleep when that future was coming closer every hour? On the second night, Shimmer showed her a diagram scratched in the dirt. It was the shape of what they were building, a quantum beacon that would send a signal faster than light, a signal that would reach the collective in seconds instead of years. The theory was simple, even if the technology was impossible. But Shimmer had been trained to build impossible things, and Maya was too stubborn to know what she could not do. My dad had an old radio in the basement, Maya said on the third morning. He used to listen to baseball games on it before I was born. She brought the radio to Shimmer, and the alien made a sound of pure joy. This was the missing piece. This was what they needed. They worked all that day. Maya missed lunch and missed dinner. Her mother came looking for her, but Maya hid in the tall grass. Until she went away, she felt terrible about worrying her parents. She promised herself she would explain everything after the world was saved. If the world got saved, as the sun went down on the third day, the beacon was finished. It looked ridiculous. Looked like something a crazy person had built, in their garage wires stuck out at odd angles. The broken iPad was taped to the old radio. The car battery was connected to everything with jumper cables. Copper spider web sat on top like a strange antenna. Will it work? Maya asked. Shimmer made a sound that meant something like, hopefully, maybe, probably not, but we have to try. Maya understood perfectly. She was tired and dirty and scared. Her hands were shaking as she reached for the switch they had rigged from a light switch stolen from the barn. Here goes nothing, she said. She pushed the switch. Nothing happened. The beacon sat there silent and dark. No lights, no sounds, no signal. Maya felt her heart sink into her stomach. Shimmer made a low, sad sound. After all that work, after all those nights with no sleep, after everything they had done, it was not going to work. Human technology was just too primitive. The universe was too big, and they were too small. Maya felt tears start to form in her eyes. She had tried so hard. She had given everything she had. But sometimes trying hard was not enough. Sometimes the impossible was actually impossible. She sat down in the dirt and put her face in her hands. Shimmer curled up next to her. They sat together in silence. Two friends waiting for the end of everything. And then a spark, tiny flash of light from the copper spider web. Maya looked up. The beacon was glowing. Not much, just a faint shimmer like moonlight on water. But it was glowing. The glow grew stronger. The beacon started to hum, a deep vibrating sound that Maya could feel in her bones. Shimmer jumped up and made a sound of pure shock. The alien had not really believed it would work, but it was working. The light grew brighter and brighter. The hum grew louder and louder. Then, with a flash that lit up the whole field like daylight, the beacon sent its signal into the sky. Maya watched the light shoot upward and vanish into the stars. Did it work? She asked. Did the signal go through? Shimmer was silent for a long moment, listening to something Maya could not hear. Then the alien turned to Maya with colors rippling across its fur in patterns of joy and relief and amazement. Signal had worked. The collective had heard help was coming. Maya started laughing and crying at the same time. She hugged Shimmer tight, and the alien hugged her back with all 6 legs. They had denied a dying alien and a 7-year-old girl. They had done the impossible. The Vorath arrived on a Thursday morning. Maya was eating breakfast when the sky turned dark. Not dark like clouds, dark like something was blocking out the sun. She ran outside with her parents and saw what was coming. It was huge, bigger than anything Maya had ever seen, bigger than the tallest building, bigger than a mountain. It hung in the sky like a wound in reality, black and pulsing and wrong. All across the farm, animals were screaming. The chickens were running in circles, the dogs were howling. Even the insects had gone silent. Maya's mother grabbed her and held her tight. "What is that?" Her father whispered. "Dear God, what is that?" Maya knew what it was. She had seen it in Shimmer's memories. The Vorath, the harvester, the thing that ate. Worlds, it had found them. Far away, Maya could hear explosions, the sounds of jets flying overhead, the sounds of missiles being fired. None of it mattered. The weapons exploded against the Varhai's hull and did nothing at all. It was like throwing pebbles at a mountain. The Vorath did not even notice. It just kept descending. Slowly, patiently hungry, Maya broke free from her mother and ran toward the oak tree. "Maya!" her father shouted. "Maya, come back!" But she did not stop. She had to find Shimmer. She had to know if help was coming. Shimmer was at the oak tree, looking up at the horror in the sky. The aliens' colors were dim and afraid. "Are they coming?" Maya asked. "Is the collective coming?" Shimmer made an uncertain sound. The signal had gone out, but space was vast and time was short. Help might not arrive in time. Maya looked up at the Vorath. It was lower now. She could see details on its surface. Things that looked like mouths opening and closing. Thousands of mouths hungry and waiting. This was how the world ended. Not with a war or a bomb or a plague. Just a hungry thing from the stars that saw Earth as food. Maya reached out and took Shimmer's paw. If this was the end, then she did not want to face it alone. She did not want Shimmer to face it alone either. "I am glad I met you," Maya said. "I am glad we tried." Shimmer made a soft sound and squeezed her hand. They stood together watching the end of everything. Then the sky split open. Light poured through a tear in space itself. Not the dark, hungry light of the Vorath. Bright, clean light, like sunrise, concentrated into a single point. Ships came through the tear. Not one ship. Not two ships. 17 ships. Each one bigger than the Vorath. Each one shining like a star given form. The Etherian collective had arrived. Maya watched in amazement as the ships surrounded the Vorath. Beams of light shot from the collective ships. The Vorath scream. Maya did not know how she could hear a scream in space, but she heard it, a sound of surprise and pain and fury. The Vorath tried to fight back. Tendrils of darkness reached toward the collective ships. But the collective was ready. They had been fighting the Vorath for 1,000 years. They knew exactly what to do more. Beams of light. The Vorath started to break apart. Chunks of its dark body fell away and dissolved before they hit the ground. In less than a minute it was over. The Vorath was gone. Nothing left but fading shadows. The sun came back. Birds started singing again. Maya realized she was crying, not sad tears. Happy tears, relief tears, alive tears. One of the collective ships began to descend. It came down slowly and gently and landed in the wheat field behind Maya's house. Maya's parents were standing on the porch holding each other. They looked terrified and confused and hopeful all at the same time. A door opened in the side of the ship. Light spilled out. Figures emerged. They were tall and graceful and not quite human. They had colors that shifted. Like Shimmer's fur, they had too many arms and eyes that held stars, but they did not seem scary. They seemed kind. One of them walked toward Maya. It knelt down so that its face was level with hers. When it spoke, the words formed directly in her mind. "We received your signal, little one." "It worked," Maya said. "The beacon worked." "It should not have worked," the being said. "The physics were wrong, and the technology was primitive, and there were 100 reasons why it should have failed. But it did not fail," Maya said. The being made a sound that might have been a laugh. No, it did not fail. Why? Maya asked. Why did it work? The being was quiet for a moment. Then it said something that Maya would remember for the rest of her life. Because you believed it would. The being stood up and looked around at the farm and the fields and the two frightened humans on the porch. We've watched your species for a very long time, it said. We have debated whether you were ready to join the greater community of minds. And, Maya asked, we measured the wrong things, the being admitted. We looked at your weapons and your wars and your capacity for destruction. It looked down at Maya. We should have been looking at your capacity for kindness. More Etherians were emerging from the ship. Now some of them went to talk to Maya's parents. Others were setting up strange devices that hummed with energy. Shimmer walked over to stand beside Maya. One of the other Etherians rushed over and started checking Shimmer for injuries. Shimmer made reassuring sounds and pointed at Maya. The alien spoke rapidly in its musical language. The Etherian who had been speaking to Maya translated, Kethvarin says that you saved their life. It said that you shared your food when you had barely enough for yourself. It was just a sandwich, Maya said. Half a sandwich, actually. It was more than that. The being said, it was hope when there was no hope. It was trust when there was no reason for trust. It was love offered freely to a stranger. We have traveled to 10,000 worlds, the being continued. We have met species with technology that makes ours look like toys. Very few of them would have done what you did. Very few of them would have shared their lunch with a hungry alien. Maya did not know what to say. She was just a kid who did not like seeing anyone go hungry, even if that anyone was a six-legged rainbow cat from space. The being knelt down again. We would like to offer your species a place among the stars. It said, we would like to teach you what we know and learn what you have to teach. Because of me, Maya asked. Because of what you represent, the being said. The best parts of humanity. Kindness and courage and hope. The belief that impossible things can happen if you try hard enough. Maya looked at her parents, who were now surrounded by gentle aliens answering their questions. She looked at Shimmer, who was getting medical attention and looking stronger every minute. She looked up at the ships hovering in the sky. What happens now? She asked. The being smiled. At least Maya thought it was a smile. Now, it said, everything changes. For you, for your family, for your whole world. And it all started with a little girl and a peanut butter sandwich. Maya smiled back. She did not know what the future held. She did not know what wonders awaited humanity among the stars. But she knew one thing for certain. She was really glad she had decided to share her lunch. The being stood and offered Maya its hand. She took it. Together they walked toward the farmhouse where Maya's parents waited behind them. Shimmer followed on all 6 legs, colors rippling with joy. Above them, the stars waited, filled with wonders beyond imagination, and all of it, every single miracle that was coming, had started with the simplest choice in the world. Being kind to someone who needed kindness. Maya squeezed the alien's hand. I am ready, she said. And she was Claude, is a I, and can make mistakes. Please double-check responses.